Welcome back, everybody. Mark here today to talk about the acceleration facts about the E60 M5. This is part 2 fact of the top 10 of a series that we're going to be presenting to you here coming up in the next week or so. And this one I wanted to talk about some of the details around the acceleration on the E60 M5 and one of the major facts that makes this car so special. If you refer in the comment section below, you'll notice I have links to the 2 videos that inspired this video as well as the others in this series. You can link to them and watch the whole video direct to get a compilation or a summary of all of these facts in one. But today's topic really is going to give a little bit more information and expand on the acceleration details of the E60 M5. Make sure you stick around to the end because you're also going to be treated to what is next in line as far as the series videos. I'll be talking about that at the very end of the video. But for now, let's get started and talk about the acceleration of the E60 M5. So let's get down to brass tacks, everybody. We all know that the E60 M5 accelerates very strong, and we know that it has a very, very high top speed, as you probably saw in my last video. But today's acceleration numbers, how do you quantify that? What does it really boil down to? What are the numbers? And so today I'm going to talk about how to get started 0 to 60 times. These cars are not necessarily drag cars, but they do have a launch control feature which is enabled to allow you to accelerate quicker. Now, just a quick touch on that. The US cars, Canadian cars have a launch control that launches preset to at 1500 RPM. The rest of world cars like Europe and such will rev up to 4000 RPM before they drop the clutch. Obviously, this has an immediate impact on the acceleration times. Yes, the Euro cars have slightly quicker acceleration times out of the hole, but as far as the power and the performance of the car, it is more or less the same between the Canadian US cars and the rest of world cars. So 0 to 60 times, some might dispute the times I'm going to spill with you, but what I'm going to talk about are the actual times of the E60 M5. I'm going to give you some facts, some numbers, and I'm going to compare it with 2 supercars and another one of its rivals back in the day, the Mercedes AMG E63. So let's compare the E60 to other cars of similar vintage. We're going to compare this to the Porsche 997 twin turbo. We always know that the 911 turbos have it in the bag for acceleration. They're phenomenally quick, and that hasn't changed. So you know that's a big rival. I'm also going to compare to the Lamborghini Gallardo, which I have right next to me here, which is also a very quick car, supercar nonetheless. And I'm going to compare numbers with the E63 AMG Mercedes. So let's talk about quarter mile time, 0 to 60 time, and then we're also going to make reference to the 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time and the 0 to 200 kilometers per hour time for all 4 of those vehicles. And then it should start to paint a picture for you how this car ranks up with some of the world's best supercars and high-end luxury cars in its era. Of course, today there's cars that will do things a little bit quicker, a little bit better. They have better launch control, they have dual clutch transmissions, some of them have more horsepower. They will all add up to things that will edge the E60 M5. But it's funny enough, because even with all that technology, the E60 still puts up a really, really good front with the world's best, not just the average cars, the world's best cars. So anyway, let's get started. Let's talk about the 0 to 60 time. So the fastest 0 to 60 time of these 4 cars is the Porsche 911 Turbo. Should be of no surprise. 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. Let's compare that to the slowest of the bunch of the E60 M5, which is 4.2 seconds, followed very, very closely by 4.1 seconds in the AMG Mercedes. Now the Lamborghini Gallardo 0 to 60 time is 3.8 seconds, putting that more or less smack dab in the middle. So on the 0 to 60 launch times, the E60 M5 is the slowest out of the whole, partially because of the poor launch control capability of the car, also because of its sheer girth and size of 4,000 pounds plus, not quite as quick out of the hole as some of the best. But let's talk about the 0 to 100 kilometers an hour time. So that's going to be a very close representation of the 0 to 60 miles per hour, because 0 to 62 miles per hour is actually 100 kilometers per hour. So let's look at those numbers. So again, the slowest out of the whole, no surprise because it's a very close number to the 0 to 60, is 4.4 seconds for the E60 M5, 4.3 seconds for the AMG Mercedes, 4 seconds flat for the Lamborghini Gallardo with the 5-liter engine and e-gear transmission, and 3.5 seconds for the Porsche 911 Turbo, the 997 Turbo Edition. Now let's talk about the 0 to 200 kilometers per hour. Now this is going to tell you a little bit different picture here. The 0 to 200 kilometers per hour time on the slowest car happens to be now is no longer the E60, it is the AMG E63 car that has a 0 to 200 kilometer per hour time of 14.2 seconds. Followed next in line by the E60 M5 at 13.5 seconds, and again further followed by the Lamborghini Gallardo at 13 seconds flat. The quickest of the bunch is, of no surprise, the 911 Turbo at 11.9 seconds, puts it about 1.5 seconds quicker to 200 kilometers per hour than the E60. But that should be of no surprise. These cars are always compared with the GTR, and the 911 Turbos have always been known for their brisk acceleration. They're very fast out of the hole, and it should be, again, no surprise that this one is the quickest of this bunch. Again, followed by the Lamborghini at half a second. That's a pretty close margin when you consider, an E60 with a 5-liter V10, the Lamborghini Gallardo with a 5-liter V10, and they pull in within a half a second of each other up to 200 kilometers an hour. Now here's a little fun fact for you. Do you realize the E60 M5 is the only car that will actually top out over 200 miles per hour, while all of these other cars are shy of that, anywhere from 190 to 199 miles per hour, puts the E60 M5 at the top of this game, and therefore these cars are really all about the top speed and stretching its long legs. But as you can see at the top end, as you get closer to the higher speeds, the E60 M5 starts to make ground on these other cars. So let's talk about the quarter mile times. Everybody likes to talk about quarter mile times, so it should be of no surprise the quickest car in the quarter mile time happens to be the Porsche 911 Turbo at 11.6 seconds at about 124 miles per hour. Makes it extremely quick out of the hole. That's why it makes it up quickly on the quarter mile as well, and it has a relatively high trap speed. So the 911 Turbo is of no surprise a very, very fast accelerating car. Now what's interesting is the next car in terms of time is 12.6 seconds, which is a perfect match between the E60 M5 and the AMG Mercedes. The difference between these two though is the ultimate trap speed now. While they actually have the same quarter mile time, the BMW E60 is actually gaining speed, and it has a trap speed of 120 miles per hour versus the AMG's 116 miles per hour. So it's an obvious indication that the AMG is slightly quicker out of the hole, but it does not take very long for the E60 to start pulling ground and leaving the E63 AMG car for dead. Not just in quarter mile time, but as well in top speed. And that puts us to the Lamborghini Gallardo smack dab in the middle again at about 11.9 seconds on the quarter mile at right at 120 miles per hour. So it's got the same trap speed as the E60 M5, but the Lambo gets there just a hair quicker. That being said, that's sort of the crossover point where the E60 starts to make ground on the Lamborghini Gallardo. Kind of an interesting fact. That's sort of that crossover point where the E60 may start to slowly pull on the Lamborghini. Because we know that the Gallardo does not exceed 200 miles per hour. And we know with the governor removed on the E60 M5 that it definitely will, in fact, pull past 200 miles per hour, making the E60 M5 the fastest top speed car in this group. Not necessarily out of the hole, but certainly top end wise. So everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video, shed some light on this for you, and talked about some of the acceleration factors, why the car is a little slower out of the hole, how you can make things a little quicker by using launch control, and I definitely thought I'd compare it with some of the world's best cars in that same era. Now make sure you stick around everybody, because my next video will be about oil consumption, because that's another hot topic on the E60 M5. And like I said, I'll be talking about why this happens and what sort of oil consumption numbers you can expect with an E60 M5. So make sure you come back on the next video, everybody. And as well, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to drop me a comment and share it with your friends. as well. If you're not a subscriber already, guys, make sure you do become one. I'd love to chat with you guys coming up, and I hope you can stick around, watch some of my other videos as they start evolving. Thanks again, everybody. Mark here again, signing out with ExoticCar PlayPlace. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.